Welcome back to Rising Influence. Thrilled to navigate through the multifaceted stories of the influential figures and corporations shaping our world today. This episode highlights Nestlé, a company that has stirred considerable debate over its practices. From its controversial strategies within the baby formula market to its operations in developing countries regarding water and labor, Nestlé's impact is indeed extensive. Join me as we delve into how this corporate giant has risen to prominence, often employing questionable methods.
Latest research from Public Eye comes with a very clear message. Nestlé must stop adding sugar to products aimed at infants.
Nestle may actually be one of the worst companies on the entire planet.
Legal experts say Nestle and Cargill seem likely to eke out a narrow victory.
Let's set the scene back in the 1970s. Imagine you've just pioneered a revolutionary baby formula, a breakthrough for infants unable to breastfeed for various reasons. While this innovation serves a critical need, you might think, how do I expand beyond this limited market? The reality is that reaching only a tiny segment of mothers isn't enough to drive significant profits. So, what if you could market your formula to every mother? A move like that could exponentially increase your customer base. However, there's an immediate challenge. The remarkable nutritional benefits of breast milk far surpass those of your powdered formula. To succeed, you'd need to shift public perception and convince them that formula is a preferable option, not an easy task when faced with the undeniable value that nature provides. You might wonder if such a tactic could lead to a rise in malnutrition among infants. The answer is yes, if the formula is promoted without strongly considering health implications. Therefore, you find yourself at a crossroads. How do you elevate the formula's status in the public's eyes? Well, that's where strategic marketing comes into play, much like the tactics seen in the advertising world of that era. Nestlé cleverly capitalized on these strategies to promote its formula as an ideal alternative to breast milk. This strategy led to what would later be termed one of the most significant medical scandals of the 20th century, driven by the world's largest food company. Consider a moment of enjoyment when making that rich, thick chocolate drink, savoring every sip. Little pleasures often have deeper connections to our daily routines. Understanding tastes and experiences is about understanding, areas where clever marketing can leave a lasting impression. Nestlé's strategy draws inspiration from the pioneering advertising techniques of other industries, particularly the tobacco industry. In the early 1900s, cigarettes were rebranded to symbolize glamour, sophistication, and allure, a massive cultural shift. How did they achieve this? By associating their products with respected figures like doctors and using advertisements that captured the public imagination, they achieved this. By tapping into this insight, Nestlé adopted a similar approach, aiming to sway mothers through the voices of trusted medical professionals. The goal became clear: get doctors to advocate for baby formula over breastfeeding. To implement this, Nestlé launched a targeted influencer campaign in the 1970s that involved compensating healthcare providers to promote their formula. This campaign was intensified in regions like Asia and Africa, where Nestlé employed local salespeople dressed as nurses to distribute free samples and persuasive medical advice. The intention was to create a loyal customer base that would turn to formula when their free samples ran out, often without fully understanding the nutritional shortcomings inherent in relying on formula over breast milk. While these practices might have boosted sales, the broader implications were concerning. For instance, many mothers in Africa, one of Nestlé's significant markets, found themselves in areas with unsafe water supplies. Without proper information about how to prepare formula safely, specifically needing to boil the water to kill harmful bacteria, countless infants faced dire health risks due to improper formula feeding. Tragically, it's estimated that babies treated with formula in unsuitable conditions were significantly more likely to suffer from serious health complications. In 1978, Nestlé executives were called before the US Senate to address a troubling reality. Many infants were falling ill or even dying due to formula-related issues. They were confronted with serious questions regarding the suitability of their products in areas with contaminated water supplies and impoverished communities. The executives were pressed to acknowledge their responsibilities toward consumers, particularly those most vulnerable. This critical moment illuminated the ethical considerations behind infant nutrition and corporate responsibility. Following those profound discussions, the World Health Organization implemented new regulations in 1981, prohibiting comparisons between breast milk and formula alternatives in marketing. This was an essential step toward protecting infants, and it remains vital for families to be well informed about their options. However, with businesses always looking toward growth, some companies shifted their marketing strategies toward regions with fewer restrictions, like Southeast Asia and the Pacific. It's disheartening to see how critical health discussions may be sidestepped, even involving initiatives that may seem overly playful, like creating quirky promotional campaigns. Despite growing movements pushing for change, including widespread boycotts and new legislation to curb misleading practices, reports persist about companies like Nestlé allegedly incentivizing medical professionals to recommend their products. This raises alarm bells for parents everywhere. Caregivers need to consult with their pediatricians before introducing any formula, ensuring that their choices align with the best health outcomes for their little ones. With its impressive profit margins, the formula industry is projected to surpass $110 billion by 2026, a staggering figure that highlights the market's vast potential and underscores the importance of ethical practices in the industry. However, the intriguing story continues. We must consider the incredibly vital water resource. Water is fundamental to human survival, and its management can be lucrative when done ethically. On one hand, tap water is affordable and accessible, yet it can be sold at astonishing premiums when packaged as bottled water associated with pristine sources. The disparity in pricing is striking, from $10 for a tanker of tap water to a jaw-dropping $50,000 once packaged. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario, it's the reality of how companies have operated, turning a basic necessity into a high-stakes profit center. Nestlé has faced criticism for its practices regarding bottled water, particularly in developing nations. A striking news story from 2013 in Pakistan revealed that the company was redirecting clean water away from local communities, packaging it, and then selling it back to those communities. This situation raises important ethical questions about providing essential resources and who truly benefits from them. Unfortunately, this often leaves individuals in those areas without access to clean drinking water, forcing them to rely on polluted sources simply because they can't afford what should rightfully be theirs. The chairman of Nestlé has undeniably faced complex questions about universal access to water, and the responses reflect a challenging dynamic between corporate interests and community well-being. It serves as a reminder that while companies are driven to maximize profits, there is an urgent need for a more thoughtful and compassionate approach to resource management that prioritizes the people and communities served. As we move forward, it's paramount that consumers remain informed and active in discussions surrounding nutrition, corporate ethics, and resource management. Advocacy for responsible practices is essential, not just for our children's or our community's health, but also for establishing a genuinely equitable playing field for all. Together, we can foster a future where health and well-being are at the forefront of decision-making, ensuring that no one is left behind in our pursuit of progress and sustainability. A decade later, the conversation about corporate responsibility has evolved, and one thing remains clear: the fundamental human right to water. Everyone deserves access to clean, safe water to meet their daily needs. However, it's essential to recognize that there's much more to the story, especially for big corporations like Nestlé. One can't help but appreciate the delightful quality of Nestlé chocolate. Take it from Dan, who insists he can identify his favorite chocolate even with a blindfold. "Was it this one?" he asks, confidently declaring, "Yes." That's it. There's no mistaking the creamy smoothness of Nestlé chocolate. If you ever want to experience this, I encourage you to try the blindfold test. You might find that Nestlé's chocolate is exceptional. While some of their products, like chocolate and candy, might seem innocent, we need to delve deeper. Nestlé is well known for iconic treats like the Kit Kat and Milky Bar, but behind the sweetness lies a more complex issue. Have you ever thought about where that cocoa comes from? A significant portion is sourced from Africa, and unfortunately, that can involve serious ethical concerns, including child labor and forced labor practices. Nestlé has built its reputation on beloved chocolate bars, which require substantial production resources, including importing cocoa from Africa. This raises the question: how does one profit amidst such costs? As unfortunate as it is, the answer often lies in tapping into cheaper labor markets, which have led to some troubling practices in their supply chains. In 2000, a groundbreaking report revealed that Nestlé, Cadbury, and Mars were implicated in purchasing cocoa obtained through unethical means. They promised to eradicate child labor from their chocolate supply chain by 2005, but deadlines came and went without fulfillment. As Jose Lopez, Nestlé's executive vice president of operations, noted, the company's commitment to fighting child labor remains a top priority, yet the challenges are immense. No company sourcing cocoa from regions like the Ivory Coast can guarantee their products are free from child labor. In response to public outrage, Nestlé sought to reassure consumers by sourcing cocoa from farms in France that adhered to ethical labor practices, rebranding Kit Kat with a fair trade label to symbolize reform. However, it's critical to note that many of their other products continued to use cocoa sourced from questionable origins. When the trend shifted from being morally correct to environmentally sustainable, they pivoted again. Instead of doubling down on ethical practices, they opted for eco-friendly labels that often require less effort and investment, effectively diverting attention from ongoing supply chain issues. Let's not stop there. Nestlé's impact stretches beyond cocoa. In discussions about automation and labor displacement, the company's decisions raise essential questions about ethics in the corporate world. It's easy to be motivated by profits, but we must consider the broader implications of those actions. Take, for example, the dire circumstances in Ethiopia. In 2002, one of the poorest countries in the world was grappling with a significant famine. Interestingly enough, this situation is intertwined with Nestlé's corporate history. The company purchased a German enterprise based in Ethiopia in 1986, which was nationalized during the 1970s. The Ethiopian government owed Nestlé compensation, initially set at $1.5 million, which ballooned to $6 million due to changing exchange rates by 2002. Here's the crux. When millions suffered, Nestlé could write off this debt quickly. That $6 million could have provided clean drinking water for 1.5 million families, or essential anti-diarrheal medicine for 750,000 children. However, instead of showing compassion during a crisis, the company demanded its money back, even while raking in $3.9 billion in profits. The backlash was swift. This decision triggered intense public outrage and solidified Nestlé's place in what would be remembered as one of the greatest public relations blunders of the decade. Fortunately, Nestlé eventually bowed to mounting pressure and boycotts, but the damage to their reputation was already done. Moving forward, consumers must engage with the ethical dimensions of their purchasing choices, and corporations must cultivate transparency and accountability. Only then can we work towards a future where business practices are aligned with the principles of fairness and humanity. It's an ongoing conversation that is well worth having as we navigate our modern world. Today, Nestlé proudly stands as the largest food company in the world, a testament to its resilience and adaptability, despite a history that has drawn considerable scrutiny. There's no denying the global demand for essential products like water, infant formula, and yes, even chocolate. Nestlé has cleverly navigated the complexities of its past, continuing to captivate consumers with its almost 2,000 diverse brands. With operations in 190 countries and a workforce of nearly 300,000 dedicated employees, Nestlé boasts 376 factories worldwide. It's recognized as one of the top employers in Europe and asserts itself as a formidable force in the food industry. Yet, it's worth noting that Nestlé itself has acknowledged that about 60% of its products aren't particularly healthy. This reality underscores the importance of consumer awareness and responsibility. Thank you for tuning in to Rising Influence. If today's exploration of Nestlé's complex practices opened your eyes, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on our future investigations. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's your perspective on Nestlé actions, and how can we effectively hold them accountable? Until next time, stay informed, curious, and questioning the status quo.